Hello, yap session, woo woo! If you don't know me, I'm Giselle. I'm a dancer, and I recently just finished a 21-day creative challenge focused on finding my artistic voice as a dancer and also producing a visual project. I'm not going to deep dive into the production of the project today, but I did want to share about the challenge, what I learned, how I grew from it, and kind of where I'm at now. Before I get into all the reflections and everything, I wanted to share that I started this challenge. I actually made this challenge for myself because I wanted to get better at freestyling and finding my artistic voice as a choreographer slash dancer. For context, I didn't ever really grow up freestyling, or I was never put in environments where I kind of had to learn how to do it or just do it. But I've always loved to choreograph, and so at this point in my adult life, I just felt like there was a gap between my true self-expression and choreography that I was putting out. I think that also has to do with the fact that I've always been in environments where I've kind of always kept someone else in mind when I'm choreographing, whether that's for like an audience or a class that I'm teaching, and that kind of drained my creative cup, which is not a good thing to have happen. So this challenge was kind of me just taking time to pour back into myself and find out where to go from here. I also wanted to get better at posting on social media and sharing what's going on, because social media is kind of scary for me. I just feel like it's so intimate and so vulnerable, and that honestly scares me. But I realize like my head and my mind makes up a lot of those fears that actually exist. So really this challenge was just about like me and my personal growth. Now to get into the juicy stuff. Before day one, I literally almost quit. Like I almost didn't even start the challenge. For some context, I made the challenge myself like a week prior, and then I knew that I wanted to have a visual project done, so I was like, okay, I needed to talk to like a videographer, filmmaker, someone who would maybe want to like work on it with me. And so it was like 2 days before the challenge started, and I was like, wait, if I need to set a day to film, I probably need to request it off. I have a full-time job, and it's kind of like a variable schedule, so like the flexibility is nice to balance with like my dance life, but I still need to request off. So 3 weeks is not a lot of time, and I like just barely had enough time to request off for like 2 weeks out from the day that I started the challenge. And I was like, okay, well like that's not enough time, like do I just not do it? Like, no girl, you're gonna start, and this is like part of the process of figuring things out and making solutions happen. So I had like a few days that I could request off, so I like requested them off, and then I tried to see if I could get those settled in for like a filming day, and thankfully it worked out. Thankfully I pushed through and committed to the challenge, because if I didn't, probably none of this would have happened, which is crazy to think about. So already before day one and on day one, like making excuses was a really common habit of mine, being avoidant of hard work when I'm too tired. And then also I just like didn't really have a structure or a system to get things done effectively or to like make things happen. It's one thing to like be motivated to do something and have the mindset and the inspiration to do it, but then it's another thing to actually follow through. Also, kind of like I mentioned earlier, I think my motivation was pretty external and not like internal slash intrinsic. You know, doing things for external validation, not a good reason to do them. So basically I made this challenge to fix my mindset, but also give myself some structure to pair action with the mental growth. And so the challenge consisted of 4 daily actions. The first one was to start off the day with affirmations. Now this just works for me personally. I really like to journal, and I really do believe that my subconscious tells me things that aren't true, and so consciously writing out affirmations helps me rewire my beliefs and my thought patterns. Doing that first thing in the morning I think really helped set the tone for the rest of the day and whatever I was trying to achieve that particular day. The second action was a smaller creative action, so something that was kind of working my creative muscle. So that kind of looked like a 10-minute freestyle with like a prompt, or 10 minutes of like technique drilling, or 30 minutes if I was feeling it. Just kind of depended on the day. It usually like the 10 or 30 minutes turned into like an hour and a half. And the third action was something that contributed to the bigger project that I was working on, and so I literally started from start to finish in 21 days. So from the start of making the concept to like filming slash content rollout plan, I just broke it up into smaller pieces, and that was like something I was working on every single day. And the fourth action was journaling and reflection every single night. Now that wasn't something that I actually stuck to, but I did find that journaling about how my progress was going helped me like digest what was going on internally. But if I wasn't journaling, then I was probably talking to a friend or my boyfriend and just like kind of giving them progress updates, and that was like essentially the same thing. But also the fact that I wasn't doing that every single day made me realize that like I don't have to be so rigid. I think that having a rigid structure is something that I have trouble with, like not sticking to it. And then I just kind of realized, like, at the end of the day, if you're just doing better than you were yesterday, that's all that really matters. So as I was going through the challenge, there were natural themes that kind of arose every single week. The first theme of the week happened to be discomfort and learning how to push when I'm uncomfortable. For example, it took me a really long time to get in the freestyle zone. Like, I would just kind of be standing there and like literally not moving, but that is not how you get into flow. Like, you get into flow by moving. So it took me a while because I was just uncomfortable. Like, freestyling isn't something that I usually practice. Now it is, but yeah. Also, the sharing on social media thing, it would take me maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes to start rolling on something that I was gonna end up posting, which is just like so time consuming. But the good thing about learning how to push through discomfort on the first week helped me a lot for the second week, which happened to be like a theme of consistency and just learning how to keep going when I didn't want to, or when I was tired, or like when I just like felt lower motivation. So for me, consistency looked like making time or committing to whatever daily goal I had in the limited amount of time that I did have. I think in the past I used to think like, oh, like if I don't have an hour to stretch, or like if I don't have an hour to choreograph, or if I don't have an hour to do something, or if I don't have an hour to do whatever it is I'm trying to do, I'm not gonna do it. There would be some days where I only had like 15 to 30 minutes or 10 minutes. But the point is to show up and do it anyway. So because I was focused on the consistency with the limited amount of time that I had, I was actually able to turn things around a lot quicker. I was able to get in flow with freestyle a lot quicker. I was able to film a lot quicker and more confidently without worrying about how it was going to turn out after I posted. So I feel like I made a lot of tangible progress in that second week. By the time the third week came around, I was starting to notice a little bit of a dip in energy. One, because I wasn't sleeping as much. I was up late really focusing on the production of the project and all that stuff. But also two, because I wasn't eating. And I wasn't eating because I wasn't trying to eat. I wasn't eating because I was so excited about what I was doing that my body couldn't tell the difference between excitement and like everyday anxiety. So honestly, that was something I really struggled with and really underestimated before even going into the challenge, was how much self-care I actually needed to make sure I made time. Which, like, when I think about it out of context, it's like, yeah, like you need to make sure you're pouring into your cup before you're like pouring out of it, you know? But as an artist, it kind of like ebbs and flows. Like sometimes you have a lot of energy to give, and then sometimes like you need to start pouring back in. So I'm just kind of learning, and honestly still learning, that flow for me, and like knowing when it's okay to be like, you know what, I can't take dance class today. You know what, I actually need to take a break from whatever I'm doing. You know what, I should go eat. But aside from that biggest challenge, I honestly had a lot of takeaways. A mantra I started saying to myself by the end of the challenge was, any time spent on your craft is better than none. And I really believed this, like starting in like the second week when I was like really going through like the consistency practice. By the end of the challenge, I knew that I would get better at anything, mentally or physically, if I was even just spending 10 minutes on it. Obviously 20, 30, 60 minutes is probably better, but like anything is better than nothing. And I think that kind of ties into where I'm at now. Like, I am so hungry and motivated to just keep working and doing better and exploring. Like, I just feel so much happier. And I think my outlook on life is a lot more positive because I'm pouring into myself creatively. I think for me personally, it only took like 14 days for me to like get really locked in and for this stuff to become a habit. But I think that's also because I was so intentional about how I chose to go through every single day. I think mindset matters just as much as the physical work in dance, and so leading with intention was super important. So kind of right now I'm just in my training era, building back up my skills before I kind of delve into another creative project. I still think it's super important to have strong technique alongside your creative side, not only for proper execution, but also for respect of the forms of art that you're using in dance. And dance is really the best way for me to communicate what's going on in my head and communicating my life experiences. And so I want to keep exploring freestyle with that in mind. Not just freestyling to be a great dancer, but to be better at telling the world who I really am. So that's all for this yap session. If that resonated with you and you want to yap even more, please hit me up. And thanks for listening.